Hello, how is everyone doing? Thanks for being here on the live stream. It's the 33rd mini paint challenge. I'm just gonna make sure that the audio is all working okay, and then we can get started. If you're new here, hi, my name is Megan, and I do these live streams not as often anymore. I used to do them weekly, but now I'm doing them sporadically. So if you do want to be notified when I'm doing my next live stream, you can sign up to my email list, and I send out the reference photo ahead of time, and then we can all paint together. Okay, good. Audio is good. It's always great having you guys in the chat. And I know what's going on. Okay, so we've got this reference photo for today. I thought since this weekend is Valentine's Day, then we could do a little Valentine's Day one. We're gonna be, I edited the background so then we could do a little bit of a colorful background today. I might not make it as bright as that is. I have the reference photo printed out here, and we will maybe make it a little less bright. I kind of want more like a pastel color in the background, but that's okay. It's just kind of an idea of what we want to do. But I've got some colors laid out, so I'll let you know what colors are on my palette. I did add one that I don't normally add on my palette today. I thought that pink would be kind of fun to play with. It's quinacridone red. Normally I'm using like a quinacridone magenta, but we've got quinacridone red. Over here is titanium white. This one here is alizarin crimson, and then cadmium red light, and then we've got cadmium yellow light, sap green, cerulean blue hue, and ultramarine blue. And that's the colors we're working with. I thought I would just lay them all out instead of laying them out when you guys are on stream today, so it would be a little bit faster. We've got a lot of fun colors to mix, so we will get right to the color mixing. And I've got, yeah, it's so nice to be back live streaming. I miss doing this. I should really do these more often. Hope everyone's having a good start to their new year. I can't believe it's already February, like midway through February already, which is crazy. So the first color, like we're gonna work on, I think, the background first, and then we'll do the suckers afterwards. Yeah, I think that's what we'll do, is we'll work on the background. Now, why I put this one out, I have a little sheet of what all the quinacridones look like. So this one's quinacridone magenta, quinacridone red, and quinacridone violet. And I really like how this one has like a more pinky tone, which is kind of what we want in the background. So that's why we're going with the quinacridone red. I kind of made this like little cheat sheet of my colors, so then I know what it looks like when it's mixed with a bit of white, because sometimes it's hard to tell what the color is going to look like when it's in kind of like its pure pigment state. So it's nice to make little cheat sheets for colors that look very similar when you're squeezing them out of the tube. Like specifically magenta and the violet one look similar right out of the tube, but they're definitely different when you add a little bit of white to them. So it's nice to kind of see the difference when you have a little cheat sheet for that. So that's why I have that there. And then I also have, I guess I can bring out my color wheel, because sometimes the color wheels are really nice to have. I made this like little color wheel of all the colors I normally use here. Quinacridone magenta is on this one, but the red can kind of fit in there as well, kind of in that area. It's just nice to have all of these like little extra help when you're painting. So I'll put that over here so we can have a little color wheel for us. And then, so we'll do the quinacridone red first, and I'm gonna mix it with a bit of white because I want more of the pastel colors, so we're just lightening all these colors. And the reference photo, because I already like put the reference photo over here. Maybe I'll bring the reference photo over here, and then you guys can see it right on the palette. It's nice that I've been like printing out the reference photos, and then it's a little bit easier to move it around on the palette and stuff. So that's kind of what I'm going for. I want it a little bit lighter than what is on there. So I'll go with that one. That'll be our first one. And then we're going to go with like the orange color here. I'm going to do a mix between quinacridone red and then add some like yellow to it to make a bit of orange. See how that goes. Add a little bit more quinacridone. Definitely need to be a little bit lighter, so add a bit more of the titanium white as well. I'm really excited about this colorful background today. It'll be so fun. Been waiting to do a rainbowy background. I've been working on a giant painting. If you've been watching on my social media, that one took me months to do, and I said I wasn't going to paint anything else until it was finished, so then I didn't get distracted. But then I still got distracted with other things, and I just like didn't paint other than that painting. So I'm glad that that painting is done and we can do some more minis. But that was like a big painting. It was like a 12 by 12 inch one. Okay, that's perfect. Oh, I love that. This palette's going to be really fun today. Really excited for that. I've just got like a little cloth here. I'm like using it on my lap to kind of like wipe off in between. We don't want the yellow to have any of these other colors in it. So I'm just gonna wipe this off. Get as much pigment off as we can so it doesn't mix. And then I'm gonna take some of this cadmium yellow light and we're gonna mix it with titanium white just to lighten it. Now, this yellow on here is a little bit more orange, so we could go more on the orange end and add a little bit of the quinacridone red if we want. I think I do because the cadmium yellow light is really bright. I mean, it's kind of fun to have like the bright yellow though. We're just kind of playing with it and seeing what we like. Actually, I really like that. I think we go a little bit brighter than the reference a bit. Now it's a little bit hard to see on camera, but I will post photos on my social media afterwards too, so you can get a better idea of the colors that I used. And then for this like green area, there's not a really big green area, but I really love green, so I want to make the green area slightly bigger in this section. So I think I will go with the sap green and then just a little bit of the titanium white. Do I want to go sap green? I put sap green out because I thought I wanted to go with it, but yeah, you know what? The sap green's really nice. I like that. It's got like a phthalo blue in it, which I don't normally have phthalo blue on my palette. I should really play with the phthalo blue more because it's got kind of like a green undertone and it's really nice. It's a nice pigment. I've been really trying to keep my palette simple because it's easier to mix colors if your palette is simple. You don't want to add too many. This one is actually oil paint. It mixes like really nicely. Okay, so I'm using oil paint for this one. The oil paint I use are these Gamblin Professional ones. This one's cadmium yellow light. Yeah, I like the Gamblin ones because they only mix it. There's no, what is it called? My brain. There's no solvents in it, so I like them. It's just mixed with like a linseed oil and then the pigment itself, which is really simple. So I do solvent-free oil painting. I've never actually worked with gouache before. I've heard it's really fun to work with though. It looks very similar kind of in texture to oil paints though, which is kind of fun. So I think we'll go with that green. I feel like that's pretty nice. And then what do we got? We've got blue. I love using the cerulean blue hue for any of these like really bright blue sections. So I think we'll do with that. And then we'll slowly move into kind of these darker blues with the ultramarine blue. And then we've got this really pretty purple color over here. Like part of me is like, yeah, I think we'll maybe use like quinacridone red and like, wonder if we want to mix it with cerulean blue or if we want to do ultramarine. We could mix maybe two of them and then decide. That's the thing with paints, is we can kind of just mix it and play with it and see what kind of works. Okay, there we go. I just love how like bright and blue, like you don't need a lot of the cerulean blue. Every time I'm mixing cerulean blue, I always end up adding too much because the pigment is just so bright. That's so pretty too. Oh, that'll be really pretty. That's actually perfect. Just the cerulean blue with the titanium white is really pretty. I feel like that's a really nice combo. Just like lightens it. It's like a really nice sky blue too. I use that as like a sky blue quite a bit. Okay, and then we want to go with this kind of indigo color, so it's in between this cerulean blue. I'm almost thinking we add, I really want to try to add a little bit of the quinacridone red and see what kind of purple we get from this, because I think it'd be really pretty. Oh yeah, that's a really nice purple. We'll do more of that. Just a little bit of the cerulean blue hue and quinacridone red is making like a really nice purple. Add a little bit more titanium white to lighten it. So we're going for more of those like pastel colors for this. I like that. I think that's really nice. That adds a really nice deep color. And then we can, if we want to add kind of more of this darker purple, we can go more on the quinacridone red side. Let's do that. And we'll make one more color because that purple is nice, and then do a little bit cerulean blue, and we'll do a little bit more of the quinacridone red. Add maybe a little bit more quinacridone red. Such a pretty color. We didn't even need to use the alizarin crimson for this. I thought we were going to use like alizarin crimson. We're definitely going to use the alizarin crimson and the ultramarine blue for these darker kind of like sucker colors. So we will use them. But for the background, such pretty colors today. Yeah, this will be really nice for kind of this area here. Look at that palette. I'm gonna have to take a picture of that palette. It's so pretty. Okay, and I'm just gonna wipe off my, oh no, now I'm getting paint all over my hand. I'm gonna grab a new wipe. Good thing I have more of these over here. Try not to get the oil paint on your hands. I'm gonna clean off this area on my palette too, so we have like a fresh mixing space to work with. And then we'll start on all of these little sucker colors. I love working with red because all of the red pigments are really fun. My favorite red pigment is the cadmium red light. It's just so saturated and pretty, and it'll be really nice in some of these kind of like brighter areas. Actually, we could start out with that one. So you can see it's like way too bright for the painting right now. Actually, like honestly, it's pretty good for that middle color. See, this is why we check. We check with the base color to see, and we're just gonna, I just hold it up. It's actually pretty good. Like, it's a thing. Sometimes the colors can look more bright in when it's not against the other colors, but that should be pretty good. So you could just use straight cadmium red light for that one area. And I want to have a few slightly darker colors. So we're gonna have this like darker red and then a slightly other one. So I'm gonna put this like here on the palette. And we'll make a few darker colors. I like to go from like dark to light colors, just so we remember what goes where. Now I'm gonna take the alizarin crimson. This is a really, really deep red. And we don't want it that deep, so we're actually going to add a little bit of this cadmium red to it. And we're trying to make this dark color in here, but we don't want it too dark. That's why we're adding some of that cadmium red light as well to it. And then we are going to look for a slightly darker color as well, and that's when we're going to add. So for this next area, we're looking for these darker shadow sections on the suckers, and I'm going to use ultramarine blue for this one. It might have been too much. We'll put some at the side. And then a little bit of the alizarin crimson. So a bit of ultramarine blue and alizarin crimson to get this like really deep purple color. Blue. I think I want it to be more on the red side, so just add a bit more alizarin crimson than the ultramarine blue. And that should work out for our darkest areas. I tend to use this combination, so the ultramarine blue and the alizarin crimson, as my kind of like black or dark color, because I like to make my shadows like a little bit more colorful. I find black pigments just a little too dark. I like to add a bit of color. It's more fun that way if we mix just like a darker color. And then we're gonna go for the little highlights here. Now, if you look really closely, pretty sure like if we were to put up titanium white to it, like it's close, but it's almost got kind of, I think like it's closer to kind of the sucker sticks, but then here there's more of like a blue light shining on it. So some of the highlights have a bit of like a blue tone to them. So I'm gonna use a clean part of my palette. So we'll do, one of them will be just the titanium white. And then this one, I'm going to add the tiniest amount of cerulean blue to it. I say tiny and then I add too much. It's nice to add a little bit of blue in that highlight. It kind of cools down the highlight a little bit. And then we'll see. I wonder if that's too blue. I maybe need to make it a little less blue. Cerulean blue is just so pigmented. You add like a little. It's a lot. There we go. Add a little bit more. Okay, that's a really nice one. So now we have two different highlight colors, which I think will work out. And then for these shadows here, they're kind of like slightly, since there's a lot of these colors here, the shadows are going to kind of fade in these different sections with the colors. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix a little bit of green and blue and purple and orange is where most of the shadows are on there. So we're going to make some slightly darker colors. And we'll just kind of add them here. So we'll do maybe the green first. So we've got the sap green. We're just going to make slightly darker colors than we made here, just to have some colorful shadows. Yeah, so we've got a slightly darker green, and then we're going to make a cerulean blue one. This guy's a little bit bright here. I'm trying to use some of the green that was already there. That's gonna not be dark enough. So we're gonna add a little bit of the sap green to that. And that'll kind of deepen the color a bit. Get like a nice like turquoise color. And then we'll have a nice deep color for that area. And then the next area that we're going to do is this kind of purpley color. We made that purple color with a little bit of the quinacridone magenta and the cerulean blue. So we'll grab a little bit of that. Don't want to add too much of the titanium white to it. Add a little bit more of the quinacridone red, make it more purpley. I'm going to add a little bit of the sap green again to it. This is just toning down the saturation a bit because the saturation isn't as bright in the shadows. In order to kind of decrease the saturation, we're going to go with a complementary color. So on the color wheel, we've got kind of like these blues. You could go with more of like an orange if you want. We're kind of on more of the purple end, so that's why I'm going with like the green to kind of desaturate it. There we go. So that's some nice shadow colors, and we are trying to make it a little bit brighter than normal shadow would be, because that would be a lot less saturated, but I like to do super colorful pieces, and so I kind of tend to bump up the saturation for a lot of my paintings. You'll notice that in a lot of my paintings I enjoy kind of, I guess I have this one here. I use kind of more of like a purple in the background in this one, and it just like, it makes the color depth like so much more when you add kind of that. This is the alizarin crimson and the ultramarine blue in the background of this painting, and so I find it just like adds a little bit more color than if you were to add too much of that complementary color. And then what do we got? We need a little bit of an orange shadow, and I'm trying to think. Yeah, I guess like just the orange shadow is kind of all we have left. So we need more of this color. We mixed that one with quinacridone red, and then we did cadmium yellow light. So we definitely need some white on that one. We had more of the quinacridone red in there. And more of that like pinkish color. A little bit more of the titanium white as well. And then for orange, we could add a little bit of blue to it to counteract that saturation a bit. So we'll add a bit of the cerulean blue. Oh, that's a lot. See what I mean? It goes so quickly. Definitely had way too much. So we could just put this color to the side. Just use a little bit of that color, and we'll go back to the yellow, bit of the quinacridone orange, quinacridone red, that's what I mean. There, that's a little bit more toned down. We can just use a little bit of this guy over here to tone that color down. We're almost kind of more on like the shadow of the yellow, so we're gonna turn this a little bit more orange by adding that. And yellow, just kind of mixing it back and forth. And now we need a bit more of the white because I don't want it that dark. Trying to keep it on the same scale as like these colors. If we're going to change colors in the shadows, we kind of want all the shadows to be a similar depth, so then the painting doesn't look a little wonky. See, that orange is a little off. I feel like we need more of that pink color here. So we'll just add a little bit more of the quinacridone red. That's a little closer. And then we still got that kind of deeper orange in the shadow. There we go. I think we've mixed all the colors now, so we can actually start painting, which is my favorite part. I know everyone gets excited to watch the actual painting part. The color mixing is so important though, and that's why I like doing it at the start. So if you get all of the colors right from the start, and then you can just go and enjoy painting afterwards. So I'm going to switch to my main painting scene. I'm going to put the reference photo back up there so you can see the reference photo. Let me just switch the scenes for a second. Let me make sure this is on here. Okay, so you can see everything. There we go. Now I did like a little sketch. It doesn't need to be anything super fancy for the sketch. I literally just put 2 hearts and that, and then I kind of sectioned off where I want each of the background colors to kind of lay in the background. We're going to lay those out. I'm wondering, I kind of want to do, I think, the background first, just because it's so fun and colorful, and it's just going to make the colors kind of come together if we do that. I'm going to move my camera too, so then you guys can see my face. Not that it really matters while I'm painting, but okay, let me see. There we go. There we go. And then I've got my little camera set up here. I make sure that I can film some little shorts for you guys. We'll do that. Okay, and then we've got my little painting thing. If you guys want me to zoom in on any painting sections, just let me know and I can kind of switch between the 2 scenes. If we do something more on the palette, then I can switch to the other scene for you guys. And I just have another paper towel. I like to lay my paintbrushes kind of this way. I will put a little bit of linseed oil on my palette too. I just have this like little container of linseed oil. I guess I can bring it into the main painting scene. I just use my little label maker, but it's just linseed oil in there. And I use this in between colors if I want to clean my brushes, or sometimes I find the titanium white to be a little goes on a little bit easier. Now, for the sketch, after you do the sketch, I have this little kneaded eraser, and all I do is I kind of like dab off a little bit of the graphite, because I find the graphite will mix into the oil paints if you don't dab it off a little bit beforehand. And I'm dabbing it off so I can still see the general area of where everything is, but just that it doesn't get into those lighter colors. I find especially with what pigment it is, cadmium yellow light tends to mix with it, and then it becomes really muddy and you can see the lines underneath. So I'll just dab this off so we don't have any issues, but you guys can still kind of see the general area of where it is on there. I do have this reference photo on my website. There's a page on my website that says Mini Paint Challenge, and if you click the button that says reference photos, it will go to the bottom and you can actually download the photo. So I made that available for you guys. It's downloadable, or you can also sign up for my email list and I'll like send it to your inbox like right before. Oh my gosh, we've got sun. I like set up all my lights because it like wasn't sunny outside. I live on the west coast on Vancouver Island, and we've gotten really lucky this winter. I'm gonna like knock on wood because we haven't had snow on the island yet, which, man, like normally we at least get a week of snow, but this year there's been no snow, but the rest of Canada is like in some sort of polar vortex. So I will just feel lucky over here on Vancouver Island that we don't have a ton of snow. Okay, so paintbrushes. I like to start out with a bigger paintbrush first. I say bigger, but this is like a size 2. I do have a size 4. Like the background. So that's about the size that I'm using for these main parts in the background. I think I'll use this one. It's like a really good size. And I'll just apply the paint. I'm going to start out with the lightest color because yellow will pick up all of the other pigments around it. So I'll start out with the yellow in the background first. So I'm just going to dip my brush right into it. When you're working with your brushes too, the reason that you want to use bigger brushes to start out with is because you don't want this paint to get into the ferrule, because if any of your paint like gets in here, then your brushes over time will kind of like, it's really hard to clean it out once the paint gets into the ferrule area, and then you know your fancy nice brushes are just gonna all splay at the end. So that's why like I have a few that I've kind of like screwed up. Here's one that I screwed up. I got like too much paint in the ferrule, and you can kind of see a little bit anyway that the ends are like more splayed compared to this one, and so you get less of that like sharp tip over time if you're doing that. This is a size 0, so it's like a little bit smaller, but you can just tell it's like more splayed from the side compared to the other one. So little painting tip there is just to use bigger brushes to start, and then when you're actually doing little details and you don't need a lot of paint, then to go to the smaller brushes. But you don't want to do too small at the start, or else you'll end up with a lot of paint in that ferrule. Okay, so we will start out with the yellow. I'm really excited about this background, and we want more of this yellow with this section. Oh, it's so pretty already. And we're gonna kind of just play with it. There's no like right or wrong way to really like brush the paint on. You can kind of make up your own technique, kind of feel it out. I like to use, especially with like the mini paintings, like you kind of just have to feel out where things will go. With a mini painting too, we're not going to be able to add as much detail as if we were working bigger. So we want to just kind of select what type of details we want to add, and then leave the rest kind of behind. I'm just kind of wanted to do the background first specifically because sometimes it's a pain in the butt to like go around when you've already painted the middle section, and then you end up like smudging these colors into the background, and we want the background to be like nice and clean. One of the reasons I picked the yellow first is because I want to use this paintbrush again to add some of the other colors in, and it just mixes really easily to the other colors. And then we'll kind of like, we'll add the colors in, and then we'll like do some blending in between the colors, I think a little bit after. I'm gonna go, what way around the circle do we want to go? I guess let's maybe go like counterclockwise. Can we do that? No, we'll go clockwise. We'll go into the orange next. I think that'll be fun. So we will grab this orangey color next. We will add it into this section. Like I said, don't blend it right away. That's the nice thing about oil paints, is you kind of have like a long blending time with them. Like this won't dry for a few days, so you could even come back tomorrow and blend it. So actually like a little bit in here, like this area here. guess we should have added a little bit of that yellow into this area as well. Can't forget this like little middle section in between the hearts. And if I just dab this off in a little bit of linseed oil before we get more of the other pigments on there, we can still go into that yellow and get in between the hearts. Okay. Just a bit. There we go. And then we'll go into the pink color next. I'm just going to clean my brush off with a little bit of that linseed oil. Also, if you guys aren't painting today, I will have these live streams up on my channel afterwards. You can always go back and follow along if you want to try painting along with me at another time. Don't feel too rushed if you are painting right now. If you're watching after this live stream, you can leave any of your questions down in the comments and I can try to come back here and answer as many as I can. I guess I haven't told any of you guys on Facebook yet, but I'm actually like monetized on Facebook. That was one of the new things lately. I never thought I would get my Facebook monetized because I'm hardly like, I kind of just like cross post from Instagram on there, but I'm actually monetized on Facebook, which is kind of cool. So if you haven't followed my Facebook page yet, follow it because it's earning money now. Every little bit counts when you're an artist. All the like little things. It's kind of cool. Because I have like a lot of family and stuff on my Facebook page, so I get a lot of engagement that way with like my friends and family. Okay, and then we're gonna go into this like purpley color next. So we will, not too worried about cleaning my brush a ton in between like these slightly darker colors. So like a Facebook Live or multi-streaming would be worth it. Yeah, I kind of wonder if like streaming on Facebook might be worth it because I think I get paid and stuff while I'm live streaming on Facebook. Maybe at some point I'll try a live stream on Facebook and see how that goes anyway. Never actually used my Facebook a ton, like I said, other than like cross-posting from Instagram, so it's interesting to learn about the Facebook platform and how that works a little bit more, because I'm like, well, might as well use it now. It's okay, we'll touch that up later. How far do I want to move this color down? Because I definitely want a little bit more. I really like the colors we picked. I thought I like wanted to go with more of the pastel color. I'm glad I went with more of the pastel colors. They are still like pretty bright though. Like they're almost similar to some of these colors. I did kind of go on the darker end for some of the colors, so we didn't go like full pastel in the background. Gotta like resist from trying to blend the colors right away. blend them at the end. You okay over there, hun? Husband's coughing in the background there. Okay, and then the next color is this nice indigo color. I really love indigo. Okay. I'm trying to save a little bit extra room on this side so I can do like more green because I like the green color. That's why I'm kind of shifting these colors a little bit over. I'm going to add a little bit of linseed oil to this kind of color here. Finding it's a little bit harder to spread. There we go. Makes it a little easier. Trying to cover up all of the white. You could do like a wash on the background. This paper is like pretty white. I know you can buy paper that's a little less white in the background, and it is a little easier to work with because then you don't have to be as meticulous with covering every like single dot up, but I don't know. I like to work on the white surface because I like to use some of the white background for the highlight areas. That's why I don't do like the underpaintings. And also this is like a special oil painting paper. So I'm using oil paints, and a lot of people like use canvas or like wood panels and they have to like do a lot of priming, but I use the oil paper. You actually don't need to prime this oil paper before you use it, so it makes just like getting started with painting a lot easier. So when I have an idea, then I don't have to like prime a canvas, because I used to do that where I would like, you know, have to prime it beforehand and get it all ready. And now I can just, oh, I have an idea, let me paint today, and then it's all ready for you. So it's nice for that like spontaneous idea-ness. Okay, I'm gonna add a little bit of this indigo color in here. There we go. It's gonna kind of blend in the middle and be like kind of funky, those colors, but we'll work it out. It'll all work out. Okay, and then we've got, I almost kind of want to bring it into here a little bit. I feel like it just looks odd if we don't bring it in there. There we go. And then I'm gonna clean this off again. Look at this. This is so pretty already. We've got all of these colors. We're gonna go into this blue color. So pretty. I actually did a painting with this same kind of background on it before. Have it. Where is it? Oh, let me bring it over. It's like actually really cool. That's kind of like, I guess I could have like brought it over and showed you guys. Let me see. I actually painted these like suckers in like a bigger painting as well. I've got painted the suckers before, so that's like painting. But then I did this little guy with like, I did this one more pastel. This one's like a little bit brighter, but this one's got like the pastel kind of background on it. But I was like, how about I combine these two paintings? So that's kind of where I got the idea, was combining these two paintings together. And yeah, so that's kind of what we're going for. Yeah, this is definitely like a little bit lighter. So I kind of use slightly lighter tones for it, but similar vibe, right? It'll be pretty. And if we feel like it's too bright, the colors, we can always tone it down a little bit. I don't know, there's something nice about like the super bright colors over here though. Okay. Okay. Go, and I'll maybe bring it up to like, I don't know, what do you guys think? Like here-ish, and then we'll do the rest in that green color. That'll work. Then I'm almost wondering, I think I kind of want to move this like orange a little bit over too. It's okay, maybe when we blend it, we'll like kind of move the orange into the yellow, make a nice transition in between those two. Grab our blending brushes next. I'll show you my silly little blending brush. It's so ridiculous. Like, I taught like an in-person painting class last year, kind of at the end of last year. And like, it just feels so silly bringing out like the silly little blending brush because it's just got like the smallest little tip on it, but it really helps. It's just like a paintbrush that I cut the tip off of. Honestly, some of the best paintbrushes are just like the shittiest ones. Yeah, it was just like one of the paintbrushes that I kind of ruined, and I was like, I'm sure I can use this to blend or do something with. Okay, we've got this green. So I'll show you that after this because we're gonna have to blend with it. Do those kind of little transitions in between. Look at that. Nice colors. These are nice and bright and vibrant. Kind of like that we went with. It's like an in-between. We didn't go maybe as bright as like the reference photo, but we also didn't go like super pastel with the colors. Okay. There we go. Yeah, I think that works out. Okay, we're gonna grab, I want to get paint on those. Where's my little blendy brush? Okay. Also, thanks for hanging out and joining the stream if you just popped in to say hi. Thanks for being here. Oh crap, I'm dropping it. Okay. Like I have this, so I have two kind of like blendy brushes. These are like the little ones. I'll try to show them like maybe over here. These little ones, there we go. Just like cut the tips off of them. This one's like a little bit more fluffy, and then this one's like super tiny blendy brush. So I think I'll use the one that's like a little bit more fluffy first. I don't know. Yeah, we'll use that. Let's just go for it. Let's see what we can do. We'll start with this orange area. But can you see? Like it works so well. just like the tiniest little brush. But it just blends the colors so nicely. Like I actually do have like a legit blending brush, but they don't make them small enough. That's the issue. Because I have like these ones, which is great for if I have like a really big area. Like I could use this, but I find it like, because then I have to still use the small brush like in these smaller crevices because I don't want to get a ton of pigment on the other area. Works okay in the big area there. I need to get a little bit of, the one thing I like to do in between each of the colors when I'm blending is just have kind of like a paper towel, and I'll take the brushes and I'll just dab them off. Yeah, maybe we'll switch between the two so you can see how this blender brush works. This one is the Princeton Velvet Touch Mini Mop brush. This is in 1/8 inch, so 1/8 of an inch brush, and it's the smallest mop brush that they have. I haven't just gonna make the painting look nice. I feel like we've got like sun right in my eyes right now. Husband, can you lower the blinds a bit? No. Just like a little bit. So it's not in my eyes so much. Oh, there we go. There we go. Yeah, that's good. Thanks. See, it's funny because like we're on the north side of the building, and I specifically wanted to be on the north side of the building so we didn't have like tons of glare sun shining into our unit, and like especially like in the summertime, like getting it too hot. But we have another building here and it like glares off the other building anyway, which honestly I don't mind because we have these like little window films that like put rainbows in our place. So when it is sunny, we do get like pretty rainbows. Oh my gosh, look at that. Look at that blending. It looks really pretty actually. We're kind of like got like transition colors on transition colors. This is great. That's super pretty. Okay, just using this to clean. I should show you guys when I'm like using it. I'm like using it quite a bit too. So just even while I'm doing the color. So I'm almost taking a decent amount of the pigment off. We're gonna have to use a small brush kind of in this middle area, but at least we can use the big brush for these outer areas. Okay, let's see, did I clean this brush off enough? I'm gonna have to use a different brush. I think there's just too much of the purpley pigment on it. Maybe I'll try to clean it off with a bit more linseed oil. That's the one thing, is you gotta make sure your brushes are cleaned off enough so don't get a lot of pigment blending where you don't want it to. There we go. Honestly, the background is so bright and colorful. It actually like worked out pretty well. Okay, let's see. Trying to make sure I'm not like blending these colors together with like the purple. There we go. Be careful with this blue because the blue is really pigmented. It's kind of gonna overpower the green if I go too far in here. So I'll pull the green a little bit down, kind of just using like a circular motion to try to pull the green down a little bit. I love this green color. There we go. That's pretty nice. Then we'll go in with the smaller mop brush after. Blend that a bit more. Hey Arvin, could you do another little audio check for me to make sure everything sounds okay? Just making sure the sound is okay for you guys. Actually only charged my husband's headphones last night. So I have his headphones that I'm doing, but they're like the same headphones.
Audio sounds fine.
I just didn't have time to play around with the audio too much this morning. We were up late last night because we had dance practice, so. Okay, I'm gonna use the smaller brush now. We've got the little, our miniest mop brush that I made. I'll do that kind of center section now. That purple is gonna like blend with the yellow kind of a little weird, but we'll work with it. Kind of accidentally pulled a little bit of the yellow down there, but that's okay. We'll work with the colors. We'll get there. I'm actually just gonna put like a little bit of linseed oil on this brush too, not just to clean it off, but to help the colors kind of blend a bit. So having a bit of that linseed oil in this area here, there we go, will help it blend a little bit over. I do want to pull this kind of orangish color over a bit because we kind of made it blend a bit over there too. Honestly, it looks pretty good. I might pull some of this blue up into here. I'm gonna take a little bit of this blue here. I'm just gonna add a bit. I feel like it needs a bit more into here so the purple's touching it less. So we're doing what works. There we go. Just so the purple's touching it less, because honestly it's making kind of like a crappy color in between, which we knew it would happen when purples and yellows like blend together. It's not going to be as nice. I'm just trying to clean off this a little bit more. So I can take these colors. I'm gonna play with this like greenish color a little bit in there. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the kind of smaller mop brush and go around here. We're going to touch this up when we do the middle section anyway. I'm just going to make sure it's all blended nicely around the edges and that it's close enough to the edge. And then we have kind of the shadow colors, so we could even add some of the shadows right now. And I will use, I'm thinking I will use, this is one of my other, this is my really small one. What I might do is I might use one of my little liner brushes. I have a 20/0 like Princeton Velvet Touch liner. It's like pretty small. I think I'll use that for the shadow colors. I'm gonna dip it a little bit in the linseed oil. So now we made these 4 shadow colors here on this side. We're gonna start out with this green pigment. And I'm just gonna go over here. And it's just slightly darker, just to give that shadow effect. The original photo had, I think, like a blue background on it. So I'm just trying to add a bit more depth into those shadows compared to it. Kind of edited this one on my computer, so I like mashed 2 kind of like photos together. I'm not the best digital artist, but I can make up for it in my painting skills, so we will make do with my interesting choice of reference photos. It's more to just get like the general idea, and then I can kind of play with it when I'm actually painting. So I try to do the digital thing like pretty quickly, so then I can actually just like go to painting, because I find the painting is, I don't know, I've tried a lot of, not a lot, but like a bit of digital art, and I just can't get myself into it as much as the actual, oh, I'm supposed to be using the darker one, doing the shadow. We're using this blue next. I just can't get myself into doing the digital art as much as the physical art. There's just something about like actually mixing the colors. I find it a lot easier too to have it physically in front of me. My husband really wants to make video games, and he wants me to like create digital assets, but I'm like really nervous about like doing more digital art. It's okay. I'll get the hang of it. And I can try to help make some digital assets, even if I do them like physically and then like put them on the computer afterwards. I feel like that would be really neat. Okay, and then we have the darker purple color. And then the orange one is after. So this is the dark purple. I feel like we picked out pretty good shadow colors. We can always touch these up near the end anyway, but just to get the general shadow color in there is nice. Okay. Need a little bit more of the blue color too. So we forgot this one as well. And then we'll do this orange. I'm just gonna clean off my brush a little bit more for this section. I have a little bit of a cloth in my hand as well. Sometimes find holding the cloth is a little bit easier. And then I can use this orange one next. Okay, now we've got this as our last little shadow area. Honestly, I'm really glad we mixed the colorful shadow colors. I feel like it really does help. The little extra work of mixing like the shadow colors really does help bring the painting together. Okay. Let me see. I think so. There we go. That looks good. And then we can start with the middle section now. We can start adding the hearts. I think I will go with the brightest color in the middle first. I'm going to use my flat brush. This one is Zero Seneca flat brush. These ones are by Willow Wolf. And these ones, show you what they look like. And so I'm doing about this size. I think this size will be good for the heart. It's slightly smaller than the one we used for the background. Don't worry, there's not pigment on it. It's just like the tip gets dyed with this like red pigment. So we'll use this brightest pigment here on this part of the palette first. Dip that in there, load up the brush with a decent amount, and then we're just gonna go in the areas that we kind of want those brighter pigments. So there's kind of a bit more like over here in this area, kind of around the edge. This sucker part in the middle, the stick, kind of has more of that bright color. There's a little bit more of that brightness kind of along the edge here. Not like fully on the edge, but and then it kind of wraps around. And I'll do both suckers at the same time, so we're not having to change the paint color over again as we go to the other side. So we'll grab a little bit more pigment, and then we'll kind of map out where we want this one to be as well. So we want this middle area. Okay, then we want around the edge. And we're just laying down the colors first, and then we'll go back in and we'll blend it kind of like we did with the outer part. And got this outer section as well. This comes around and like connects a little bit. There. Nice thing about still life painting is it doesn't need to be perfect, because things in real life aren't perfect. Almost like if you do it a little bit less than perfect, that actually makes it look more realistic. It's one of those funny things where actually making mistakes on realism is like a good thing, because it's going to look more realistic. And you have kind of wonky shapes. Okay, the next color we'll do is this darker red color. And this is going to be kind of the main area in the middle here. I'm going to just kind of add it in like this, and then we'll go in and blend it. I don't want to put too much pigment on either, because I'm going to scrape a little bit of it off. I want a little bit of the white showing in the background, because there's kind of like a little speckling going on. You can use the texture of your paper or canvas to your advantage to like add a little bit of that to the final outcome of the painting, which is what I like to do, especially with the white background. That's why I keep my white background, because it really does like add to it. Such a pretty red. Okay. That. Mostly it's coming together slowly. Getting there. I'm excited to see this one. It's all finished. Whoops, I'm bleeping in that one area. Let's see. Kind of accidentally brought it into here a little bit. It's okay. There we go. Touch that up near the end. Everything's good. There. And then kind of like a little bit around the edges with this darker color as well. And then we've got like that really deep color around the edges as well, but we'll add that last. I kind of want to blend some of these out before we add that darker color. I'm gonna go back in with some of these brighter colors. So I don't want to put too much of this dark in there. Sometimes harder to go back from these heavily dark pigmented areas, I find. If you want it more saturated later on, it's hard to kind of add the saturated color until you kind of have to wait for it to dry. And we're trying to paint this all in one go. Style of painting is called alla prima. So you're doing your painting all in one go. A lot of the old masters did like layers. I mean, there was also painters that specifically painted alla prima as well. But a lot of them did layers with their oil paintings. You have to wait for like each individual layer to dry, which I don't know, my brain doesn't have the patience for that, so I'm just painting it all in one go. That's the thing though with art, is you can kind of just make up your own painting style. It's more like unique that way too, because my paintings will be very different than all of the paintings that were done in history with oil paint. I like kind of the bright, bold colors of like the Impressionist era, but I also really love like the Baroque era with like the shadows and all of the contrast in those paintings. So I feel like I take my style from a lot of different eras, and then like the Renaissance and well, I guess the like Baroque period also had like really realistic stuff as well. They were doing like a lot of figures. Recently went to Rome last year, and it was really cool to see all of the artwork like in person from like the Baroque period, which a lot of that art, like the architecture from that period, was really cool too. Just getting to see just how grand the paintings were, just really, really neat. Now we'll add some of those dark areas. I'm going to add the dark areas before we do the blending, and then we'll blend this in so it looks less wonky. So this one is the really dark purple that we mixed, and I'm just going to put it along the edges, and we can blend some of this out with the other colors. Really don't want to use too much of this darker one. Because it's like really dark. Probably should use a smaller brush to put this in, but I'm just sometimes you don't want to switch brushes. I also know that if I use too many brushes, I'm going to have to clean them all after. Okay, that's kind of got a little bit on the edge. We'll clean that up anyway. It's fine. And then get some of that darker pigment on the other one as well. We've got pigment in this area. Just going to add a very small amount here. And then we've also got it along this edge as well. And don't worry, I'm not forgetting the highlights. We're just not adding those in until the end. Kind of like to add them over top of everything. That's why I'm doing like really thin layers as well. It's easier to add the highlights in if you don't paint everything like too thick. Kind of want like the thicker layers to be on top. And we're adding kind of like a little shadow there. Always go back in with a little bit more of this darker pigment too if we feel like we want to add it to certain areas. But now I'm going to take a little blending brush. We've got to decide which blending brush we want to use. think I want to maybe I'm going to use this. It's not quite a blending brush, but it's like my zero round brush. So I've got my Princeton Imperial series brush, round 0. I'm going to add a little bit of linseed oil onto it. That's just going to help some of the pigments kind of blend. I don't want too much, so I'm going to wipe a little bit of it off on the palette here. I'm going to go into this like really bright red pigment, and we'll use that to kind of start the blending process. So because we want some of these kind of like brighter colors to blend in there. So we're kind of adding a little bit of that brighter red in between. Let's see, I guess I could like bring my chair in. I've got it like far away because I don't want to touch any of the cameras. I've got like, how many cameras do I have set up today? 1, 2, 3, 4 cameras. I only have 4 cameras set up today. Sometimes I do like, no, I haven't been doing the painting time-lapse setup as much anymore. I know that some people watch the time lapses and they like them, but they are kind of quite the process to edit and film, so I haven't been doing them as much anymore. Let me know if you do want more painting time lapses again though, because I will do it for you guys if you enjoy it. I have a bunch of past ones up on my channel, so if you want to watch the painting time lapses, if I get more views on some of those painting time lapses, I will make more of them. But yeah, the painting time lapses are really cool. I spent a lot of time for like quite a few years just like learning how to do time lapses better. Now that I have the skill, I'm like, I might as well use it. Kind of see that it's like slowly coming together as we're like blending these areas out, right? It's like, I love this part, like the blending part is my favorite because then you really can see everything kind of coming together. I don't want to go into the dark color quite yet. I'm like starting to get it on my brush, but I want the, maybe I will get the other one blended before we do that. So I'm going to dip it back into this brighter pigment and then move to the other heart. More of this red pigment, and I will add it to the edges here. Coming together. Are you guys doing anything for the Valentine's Day weekend? Also, where I live, it's like in Canada, they have Family Day weekend attached to this week as well, so it's like a long weekend. Get to spend time as a family. We're doing too much this weekend. Looking after my mom's dog. They're going away, so we're gonna their dog and their 2 cats. Their doggo is gonna come live here for the weekend, and then we're gonna go visit their cats, feed them and play with them. So we get a dog for the weekend. There's because we used to have a dog. His name was Toby. I miss him. There's parts of a dog that I really miss. His energy was just so goofy and fun. I don't know if we'll get another dog now that we live in a condo though, but the dog energy was so fun to have around. We have our 2 cats still. They'll be around for a while longer. Cats definitely live longer. Well, we had a big dog though. Bigger dogs don't live as long. There we go. That's coming together. Also, if you guys enjoy these live streams, maybe I'll do a few more live streams in the next month or 2. I thought about doing another one this month. I've only been kind of doing them once a month, but I kind of miss some of the weekly scheduled live streams. It's a dedicated session for painting. It's kind of nice to just be okay, I'm definitely painting on this day. I get to paint with you guys, get to try new subjects out, and I mean, it's quite the production to set these up, but I don't know, I love it. I love having kind of dedicated time, because sometimes you just don't paint if you don't have a dedicated time set out. So it's nice to block in the time and be no, I'm gonna definitely paint during this period. There we go. I mean, that's looking pretty good so far. Get it. Honestly, we probably don't need to turn this a ton red because we're going to be putting highlights in this area anyway. Use a bit of that background color anyway for the highlights. I'm going to go into this kind of darker area now. I'm going to blend some of the darker area out. Play around with these edges just to make them a little bit more sharp, Got a bit of linseed oil on my brush. Sometimes what I like to do too is like take a really thin brush. So I've got, let me find one of my tiny brushes. Oh, there's a small one. There's another 20/0 liner brush. And I'll just take it in a little bit of linseed oil to go around the edges of the painting. And you can kind of just like makes the lines around the edge a little bit sharper. Might even add some of that darker pigment to this area again. Just right around the edge. Just being careful that we bring a little bit of this darker color into the edge, especially like over here. It's gonna make it like look really sharp around the edge if I just do that. Grab this lighter color again. There we go. Then I'll grab a little bit more of the darker pigment for this next side. Just gonna make the edges a little bit more crispy. That's a weird word to use for painting. Clearly I've been baking a lot. Actually been baking a lot of sourdough lately. We had killed our like sourdough starter a few years ago, and so like I stopped baking sourdough, but recently my husband saw that like someone used kimchi brine to start like a sourdough starter, and I was like, well, I just made like homemade kimchi, like let's just try it out. And so now we actually have like a starter that works again. So I've been baking sourdough, which has been like really delicious. So I'm on another sourdough craze again. And I love sourdough because I get to make the tops look cute. So I've been just like having a lot of fun making the tops look really cute. I was making like little flowers on one of them. I posted on my stories the other day. Maybe I'll share it to my feed on here, on my YouTube community tab. I'll put a picture on there of sourdough I made. It's got these like cute little flowers. I made like flowers out of I use oats and chia seeds. So I did oats for like the little petals, and then I put chia seeds as like the center of the flower, and they turned out so cute. And then I made my friend a loaf too. She liked the loaf. She thought it was cute. And now I just have like tons of sourdough. So I'm like made a loaf for my parents the other day. Made one for my friend. Probably make some for more of my friends. I get to do kind of the stick part of it soon. feel like we actually took out some of the darker areas in this part, so I'm gonna go back in that area, kind of like darken up the center section a bit. Darken that up. Let's make it pop a little bit more. Go. We're kind of just like pushing and pulling the shadow and brighter saturated areas, and that'll help us with having more depth in the painting. It's like the lights and darks. There we go. Just trying to be really careful around these edges here. I'm gonna add a little bit more linseed oil to that. Helps to connect it a little bit better. There we go. I'm gonna take this brush back into this more saturated color. I realize, like I said, I need to brighten up a few of these areas around the edge. This one. No, not that one. I almost need to like divide some of my brushes into like, there's the liner brush. So it's like slightly bigger. This is a 10/0, the other one was a 20/0. And I'm gonna use this, I think. I mean, I feel like we could have a slight, that one's okay. Okay, and we're doing this really, really bright white color for it. We're gonna need a lot of linseed oil in the titanium white though. It's gonna be really hard to spread if we don't put enough linseed oil. Titanium white is just so thick. Oh no, we're getting close. I said don't get it in the ferrule, as I like almost get it in the ferrule. And I'm really just, I mean, this is pretty much the same color as the paper, but it's got a slightly different texture than the paper, and I do want to cover the paper up with all oil paint. We will have to add like a little bit of a shadow right here as well. We'll use maybe like our purplish color for that shadow. Just have to get these like the right size now is like the biggest thing. So we want to make sure we don't have super thick sticks on these. It's gonna look so weird. Like we're gonna have to like extend the color a little bit here. And then for this one, I want to extend the color a little bit as well. So what we'll do to extend the color is we'll probably use like our little blender brush that we have. And I'll just try to put a little bit of linseed oil on it and see how much we can like blend it out. This one kinda, maybe I'll take this blender brush. I have this other little one. It's like a little bit smaller. And I can put it in linseed oil and hopefully dab that on, and it'll just like extend these colors. Oh yeah, it's working. See, the littlest brush, just to make the sticks a little bit smaller. I'll put a little bit more linseed oil on that. Just gonna very carefully extend it. I'm actually gonna dip it into this pigment a little bit, just to add a little bit more onto the brush. Yeah, that helped. Don't want to add too much linseed oil. It'll change the consistency of the paint a little too much. There, we're just extending the color a little bit, and then the stick won't look so big and wonky. I'm gonna take this blue color now. I'm just gonna extend this blue area. Just trying to extend this purpley shadow as well, kind of on the edge. Without blending it too much. I feel like we're gonna have to make the stick a little bit thinner in this area here. So I'm gonna add a bit more of this purpley color. Like a little too thick in this one area. I need to like thin it out here. So I'm just like scraping it off with this. That's why this one's like really nice, because you can kind of use the edge of it to kind of scrape off paint a bit. Just trying to get it as close as we can. I do want these to be like not wonky. Because they'll really stand out if they're a little too big. And then I'm going to go back into this purpley color, and we're going to extend this one as well. I'd even start to add a little bit of blue into some of this, just so it blends a little bit nicer. I just added a bit more just to line that up. Kind of wasn't imagining this part to be the most finicky part, but we really do want the sticks to look really smooth. So we're going to smooth out the white afterwards as well. I'm going to make this one come in a little bit. I'm going to pull some of this kind of darker color in. So I'm going to, that one's the shadow color for this blue. Blending out the shadow a bit into the other sections. I might as well start working on blending the shadow out now. There we go. A bit more of this purple. And then we need to add a little bit of a shadow here because they cross over top, and we're kind of, I think I'm going to use more of this like purplish color. I'm just going to put that on here a bit. Like it blends pretty well into that area. And then more of like color on this side. And to make that kind of like a deeper color, what we can do is we can go back in and kind of deepen the shadows right along the edges. So we'll use our little like liner brush, and we'll take the dark color we used on the main painting, and it's these little details that make the biggest difference. Really playing with the lights and darks in your painting and spending that extra time to just add a little bit more depth really does help. I'm taking this darker color with a bit of linseed oil so it's not too deep, and we're just going to run it like along the edges of the sucker. That's gonna really help to kind of brighten that area up, or darken the area up, brighten the actual sucker part up. Try to have a steady hand as best we can. It's okay, you can go back in, touch it up anyway. Just in those darkest sections, and then right along this middle line. I'm just going to go along this edge too, because I noticed that it's not that dark. So we'll just make sure we go in to that area on this side as well. We've got a few kind of silly looking shadows, so we'll fix those up. And then once we have the shadows fixed up, we can add those highlights, and then it's kind of, the highlights are like the finishing touches, because we can still make this look brighter by adding those shadows and highlights in. Just touching it up around the edges. This darker color. This will make it pop a little bit more. Oops, I made that a little too dark. It's okay, go back in. Just gonna lighten it up there. And then I want to make, what I noticed is we made this area over here, kind of in the middle, a little bit too dark. So I'm going to bring some of this blue color into the shadow that we had made, just to kind of tone that down a little bit. With that area that's got more of the green, so we'll go back in with the green as well. There we go. DIY microwave gift box. If you're talking about the size of my painting, it's 3 inches by 3 inches. I do very tiny little mini paintings. That's why we're like trying to use as many tiny brushes as we can. Just kind of adding some darker parts back into here. Also adding a little bit of texture with my brush, so going back in, kind of roughing up this middle section. Just kind of adds like a cool little like swirly pattern to the sucker. Alright, and then so I realize we need to add a little bit more depth in the side here. I think I will go into this darker color. I need to use this little guy here. There, that adds a little bit more depth there. And I'm going to go into the white as well. And then we'll just run it along the middle. Okay, grab this white brush again. Get to add highlights now. Super excited to add some of the highlights. Just touch this up in this middle section here. Go. And then now we can add a kind of more bluish highlights to the main section. So we're wanting to add kind of like a highlight over here. So like that. This one kind of curves out over here. And then we've got kind of this like more jagged highlight over here. So we're going to use our brush kind of at an angle to create more of that imperfect highlight. And then there's also a highlight over here, so kind of closer to the edge there. And there's like a little highlight along here. They're less bright. Highlight here too. I feel like that would be nice. feel like it needs a little bit of a highlight here. Sometimes, yeah, that's kind of nice. A little bit along the edge. I feel like making it extra shiny just makes it look really cute. Okay. I mean, I've got, I notice we can make this one stand out a little bit more by adding, there we go. And now you just kind of step back and you see if there's any like little bits of things that you can add, but honestly I like the colors that we went with. I feel like the shading in these different areas worked out really well. I'm just gonna kind of blend this one section a bit more. Notice it could kind of use a little bit more blending, but that's why we just kind of like step back and we see how that will work. I like that. That's pretty good. And then my favorite part is we take one last faux brush, because I like to film kind of like my last brush stroke, so maybe we'll do that. That looks cute. Okay, well, I guess that's finished then. What do we think? I'm glad we went with the kind of deeper background, because the last painting I did with this background, it was like lighter. So we kind of went with slightly brighter this time with those background colors. And I like how the brighter background colors turned out in this one. But yay. It was nice to do a live stream with you guys again today. I guess I will post the finished products up on my Instagram, and I'll put it on the community tab on my YouTube. So if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel. But I hope you guys enjoyed the painting for today. I have little things, so like if you want to try painting, if you're just joining now and you've just seen it, if you want, you can tag me on social media, and then I can give your art some love on my socials. I would love to see if you guys try out this painting. I think it's just like a lot of fun. Also, if you want to try it out for next time, I have the reference photos on my website, so you can like download the reference photos on there. But yeah, that was a lot of fun. Thanks for hanging out with me guys today, and I guess I will see you in the next stream. So bye.